everybody, how are you? Today's video is going to be Riker's NICU experience and my experience as his mother in the NICU. This video will also be a collab type video with my friend Maddie here on YouTube. She is also the mother of a beautiful little baby boy named Jonathan. He's just a couple of weeks younger than Riker, and I have been following her channel since she got pregnant with Jonathan. He was also born and sent to the NICU. Our experiences, while they are similar, they are so different as well. I gave her the idea that maybe we could do a video together where I share my experience of a mother in the NICU and she shared hers, because it is such a difficult time of a mom's life, and maybe you can learn something or relate to something or share it with another mom or somebody that you know that has a NICU baby. I have never experienced such a hard time in my life. I've really been putting this video off for a long time because it was so hard for me, and I knew that whenever I came to make this video I was going to be very emotional. We have 3 little girls and I had always wanted a son, and so Riker was like the answer to years and years of prayer. I love my daughters, but I always had that want and desire for a son, and so when I learned that I was having a son, I was just elated. And I felt complete even before he was born. Riker was born on January 26th at 8:30 at night, and my delivery was relatively easy. I was a few weeks early, but I was measuring very far ahead, so we were sure that he would be a big baby and expected him to be healthy. When he was born, he did have the cord around his neck, but that wasn't a huge issue. The doctor was able to pull it over his head and he was fine, but within minutes he was still really blue and grunting, and so they took him straight from birth to the NICU before I even got to hold him. And everyone made it seem like it was just, you know, precautionary, that they thought that he was fine and that they were just going to be checking on him. And that turned into overnight, and then the next morning they were doing x-rays and found out that he had pneumonia, which I never knew a baby could be born with pneumonia. He also had a pneumothorax, which is a collapsed lung. His wasn't collapsed as much as it was, I don't know like what the medical term is, but it was like pushed up, like it wasn't able to inflate all the way, so they called it a pneumothorax. And he was on oxygen, like an oxygen hood. He had nasal cannulas. He also had a feeding tube because his blood sugars were low, and so they needed to maintain that. And because I wasn't able to hold him, I couldn't nurse him, so there was that. He had an arterial line in his foot so they could check arterial blood gases. He had a continuous IV into his umbilical cord, and it was just so scary. And that first day I really thought, they kept saying, you know, this is just gonna last a little bit of time, this isn't a long-term thing. So in my mind I was believing them and thought, okay, maybe we'll get to go home tomorrow. And I don't know why I thought that. I don't know if I was like in denial, but I mean, if you see him in these pictures, you can know that baby's not going home tomorrow. And after so many days of not being able to hold him, I really went into like a depression. Like I felt like I didn't even have a baby. I delivered a baby, but I didn't get to bond with him or hold him or nurse him or cuddle him. And I was in a mother-baby unit where I could hear all the other babies around me crying, and if I went in the halls to get something to drink or just to walk around to get out of my room, I saw newborns and I didn't have mine, so it was very hard. I was so thankful that the NICU in the hospital where Riker was born had a room for us to stay just across the hallway from him. Once I was discharged from Mother Baby 3 days after he was born, I was able to stay with him, and I had a private room where I could pump milk and bring it to the NICU nurses and things like that. And he was at such like a critical care in the first week, especially the first week of his life, that they didn't really let me help with anything. Here's Riker. You want to be here for the video? Are you going to be good? Okay, what was I saying? So that first week, I really was trying to bond with my baby any way that I could, and the nurses really weren't receptive to me. I didn't get many updates from them. I really had to ask a million questions to get any kind of information, and I felt really like, I don't know, neglected. I don't know what the right word is, but I was getting really depressed, and I felt like people weren't listening to me, and it was my baby, and if I wasn't going to be able to take care of him the way a new mom takes care of their baby, I wanted to know everything that a new mom would know. How much is their baby eating? How many dirty diapers do they have? Those are just things as a new mom you watch for, so that you know that your baby is doing things they should. And when I finally voiced that to the doctors and the nurses, they kind of looked at me surprised, like, wow, we don't have a lot of parents like you. And that was very surprising to me. And they said that now that they know that I want to know and I want to be a part of things, they let me do his cares, is what they're called. So his diaper changes and taking his temperature and things like that, and we did those every 2 hours. So at about 5 days old, he was not getting any better, and he still had the pneumonia and the pneumothorax, and he developed something called PPHN, which I had never heard of before, and that stands for persistent pulmonary hypertension in a newborn. And I had no idea what that was, and if you go online and look things up, it just scares you even more, so I tried not to do that. But they said that the NICU that he was in was only a level 2, and to be treated for his serious condition, he needed to be transported to a level 3 NICU. So they loaded him up in a stretcher with a neonatal cart and everything on it to take care of him. I mean, he pretty much went from the NICU to a transport NICU. I mean, he didn't have anything disconnected from him. It was like he was still in the NICU. It just took him across town to a level 3 NICU. And when we went to the level 3 NICU, it was a totally different experience. It seemed way more like high tech and modern and very business, and they had all the newest technology. We were able to actually room in with him instead of being in a separate room across the hall, and both me and my husband were able to stay in there with him. And I noticed over the 2.5 weeks that he was there, we were the only family out of 60 unit NICU where there was the mom and the dad. So I am so blessed that I was able to have my husband with me, because even with him, it was the hardest time of my life. I can't imagine being there without him and all of our family that supported us. I'll go back to when Riker was transported to the level 3 NICU. He was sent there primarily to be put on a special gas that treats PPHN. Once he was put on that gas, within 24 hours, he really started to turn around and start to act like a normal baby. I remember he didn't really open his eyes till he was 3 days old, and my other children, they would open their eyes at birth and were looking around, so I could definitely tell that he was sick. But once he got that nitric oxide, he really started to act like a normal baby and cry and open his eyes. And it's funny because most people, they don't want their babies to cry, but when you have a sick baby, you want them to cry because you know they're doing normal baby things. We had lots of different nurses and lactation consultants and counselors and social workers. They were really set up to have a whole team around us to help us with our stay there. And Riker was in the NICU till he was 3 weeks old. He was born at 8 pounds 7 ounces, and when he left he was 8 pounds 7 ounces. They were really hoping that he would gain some weight the last couple of days. That's all we were really there for, was for them to see that he could be off of his feeding tube and eat on his own and actually gain weight. Anyways, obviously Riker graduated from the NICU at almost 3 weeks old. His original due date was February 12th, which is my birthday, and he was discharged on February 13th. So I remember at the end when I found out that he was getting to be discharged, I found out the day before my birthday, it was a Wednesday, that for my birthday I would get to take my baby home on the day that if he was born on his due date, February 12th, and a healthy baby, we could have left on February 13th. So that really helped me with our experience in the NICU, knowing that he still got to go home on February 13th. He just came a few weeks early, 3 weeks early, and had a little bit of a rough start, but the doctors did say that his PPHN, pneumonia, the pneumothorax, the low blood sugar, all those things combined were not going to affect him growing up, that it was just an acute thing, and once he was treated and healthy, he was over it. And since he's been home, he's only been to the doctor for well baby visits. He hasn't had any kind of respiratory issues or colds or anything, nothing, no rashes, no diaper rash. So he really is a healthy baby boy, and so happy that he graduated from the NICU at 3 weeks old. And he's just thrived ever since we brought him home. We brought him home Friday, February 13th, and you have to think he went home at almost 3 weeks old at his birth weight. We took him home for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so I guess that's 4 days. And when we took him back that Monday for his weight check, he gained almost an entire pound. So it just shows that being home and bonding with your baby in your own home and having like cuddling time and skin to skin and bonding really helps your baby thrive. I really did feel like I had missed out on so much not being able to have my baby home the first 3 weeks of his life, because I didn't get to hold him until he was almost a week old, and that was so hard for me. But once we were able to do holds, he really started to get better a lot faster, and yeah, so he's doing good now, and I will leave some information about newborn persistent pulmonary hypertension. Oh, that was the other thing. He did get jaundice as well. So he had so many different things on top of each other, some more serious than others. The jaundice and the blood sugar weren't super serious compared to the pneumothorax, the pneumonia, and the PPHN, but pile those all on top of each other, and it just felt like I was getting bad news after bad news after bad news. And I just felt like, why God? But me and my husband are so much stronger because of this experience. Our girls were amazing and so patient, and I couldn't imagine how hard it was for them as 3 little sisters, so excited that their mom and dad were going to the hospital to have the baby, We packed one outfit for mom and one outfit for baby, expecting that we would be home the day after he was born, and our little girls were separated from us for 3 weeks. They didn't get to hold him until just a few days before he came home. And I just am so impressed with how strong they were, and they still continue to do good in school. And I mean, it would be completely acceptable for kids to act out and have meltdowns in a time like that where they're separated from their parents, and the baby brother that they had waited, 10 months to come was in the hospital. I can't imagine how scary that was for them. I know how scary it was for me, and I'm not a child. So again, I know this video is all over the place. I just feel like there's so many different topics to talk about when it comes to the NICU and our experience. But I did want to share it, and if you guys have any questions, just leave them down below and I will be happy to answer them. I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Please go check out Maddie and Jonathan's story on her channel. I will link it down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Who's that boy? Who's that boy? Who's that boy, boy, boy? Who's that boy, 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 boy? Hi.
Mwah.